What is up, everybody, and welcome back. Before we dive into the absolute chaos today, do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button. All right, let's get into it, because we're about to break down one of the most train-wreck town halls I have seen in a long time.
Yep, you heard that right. That is a real quote from a real U.S. congressman at a real public meeting. And believe me, this is just where things start to get weird.
So, let's set the scene. Meet Republican Congressman Josh Brecheen of Oklahoma. He decides to kick off this massive 20-stop town hall tour to, connect with his people. What could possibly go wrong?
Now, what makes this extra interesting is that this tour was his big return to public meetings after what local news was calling months of absence. So yeah, you can bet the stage was set for some constituents who had a lot of questions saved up.
And it did not take long for things to get heated. A local resident steps right up to the microphone with some very direct, very real-world questions about the economy and some claims made by former President Trump.
She wanted to know two key things. One, what about Trump's wild claim that he was lowering drug prices by 1,500%? And two, what has Brecheen personally done to lower these insane grocery prices? The stuff that's actually affecting everybody every single day.
And his response? Well, he basically suggested she was confusing her levels of government, telling her that the things she brought up, well, those are handled at the state level.
So let's just break this down for a second. The constituent is asking about federal policies and presidential claims, right? And the congressman's answer is to point her towards her state government. It's a classic dodge.
But here's where this whole story just completely takes a turn. Because that whole "it's a state issue" excuse, well, it gets pretty complicated when you look at his actual job.
See, Congressman Brecheen sits on the House Budget Committee. He also voted for a huge federal bill that critics say actually raises the cost of food and health care, the very, very topics the constituent just asked him about. Yikes!
Now, when he's pressed on these points, the conversation takes a dramatic shift. Instead of talking about his budget votes, the congressman pivots to a whole bunch of other things. So you might want to buckle up.
First, when somebody asked him about why he supports Israel, he didn't really talk about geopolitics or foreign policy. Nope, he cited Genesis chapters 12 and 17.
Then he brought up the president of Turkey, claiming that he wants to reestablish the Ottoman Empire. And that, somehow, led him right back to his fears about Sharia law in America. And right in the middle of all this back and forth, he pleaded with the audience saying, "We cannot go turning into chaos," which is pretty ironic, considering the circumstances.
So how did the audience react to all of this? Well, according to the reports from people who were actually there, some of his comments were just met with straight-up laughter from the crowd.
So was this just one wild night in Oklahoma? Not exactly. It actually seems to be part of a bigger trend of Republican representatives getting a very, very frosty reception from their own constituents.
I mean, look over in Wyoming. Representative Harriet Hageman got grilled over Trump's tariffs and really angered voters by denying climate science. And over in Missouri, Representative Mark Alford faced an even more direct confrontation.
A constituent in Missouri told Representative Mark Alford, and I am quoting here, point blank, to get his head out of Trump's ass. That shows you the level of frustration that seems to be boiling over right now.
Which really brings us to the big question here. When you see these kinds of exchanges, voters asking direct questions and politicians just changing the subject to something completely different, is it a sign that the classic American town hall is just fundamentally broken?
What do you think? Let me know what your take is in the comments. And hey, if you found this breakdown useful, please smash that like button and subscribe for more explainers just like this one. Thanks for watching.